Hello, this is Sideways 8 again. Now, this is to Reverse Cross and someone else who said about Hemlock Theory. Reverse Cross said, my Hemlock Theory seemed to be like moral relativism. Okay. Not true. Do you consider the following wrong? Do you consider corruption wrong? Do you consider a government like North Korea, where the guy at the top has all the wealth, can get all the girls he wants, even if it's against their will, and even if they're underage, wrong? While everyone in the streets suffer. Do you consider that wrong? Do you consider it wrong to abuse people? Do you consider it wrong to make people insane? Do you think it's wrong to set people up for failure so that they can't be strong, independent beings? Do you think it's wrong to make sure that people are unable to work or fend for themselves, so ensure a life of poverty? Do you think it's immorally wrong to set someone up where they can end up becoming very abusive and become very violent, where they start harming people at a drop of a hat? Do you consider war wrong? If you say all this is wrong, then let's talk about what is the cause of all these things. In my previous video, I was talking about how I was abused as a kid and how that made me act in very bad ways towards other people. How that fucked me up. That made it very difficult for me for my life. And it wasn't until I fixed that life got better, and life got better, and the world got better. Now, my mother was abused. Now, here's the thing. She, in her mind, thought she was doing the right thing. She was the victim, and everything she did was right, and everything you did to prevent her from doing the bad thing she was doing was a sign you were evil. This, when you're in an emotionally confused and disturbed state, up is down, left is right, water is dry, fire is cold, you live in bizarro land. A person lives in bizarro land. And what happens is they cannot see what is in front of them. All they can see is their delusions. Now, when my mom finally got over her emotional demons, is when she became a nicer person. It is where she became morally, naturally, and effortlessly. She has become a good person without needing a moral code. As soon as she got rid of her psychological demons and confronted all these abuses, wounds, and problems, is when she became a morally good person. She doesn't need rules to tell her what's good. She doesn't need rules to tell her what's right. It's just when you're in the right state of mind, you become a moral person. Now, what about all those horrible things I was talking about earlier? Well, now we're going to talk about social justice warriors and feminazis and all these crazy fucks. Here's why I hate these people, and I think I said it earlier. I hate them because when the 2008 prime crisis collapse happened, the division between the left and right both hate each other, but both people on both sides think it's a good idea to fix this situation by holding those responsible, those who started this whole mess that ended up bankrupting and destroying entire economies like Iceland's, responsible. So what happened? What stopped that? Well, the us versus them. People cared more about their alliances than fixing shit. And the left, how they fixed it, they didn't fix it at all. They focused on petty bullshit. You see this picture where it says, we'll trade racists for rapists? I'm going to tell you how these people think. And I'm going to tell you fucking why. Well, what happened is that if you look up Internet Aristocrats version video on social justice wars, he describes exactly what this is going on. Is they are narcissists, and they started doing all kinds of crazy shit. Please don't rape me bracelets, safe spaces, microaggressions. You know, the really petty, insignificant, virtuous singing bullshit that does nothing good other than make the person look good for the most worthless of reasons. We all know this. So what makes a person like this? Is this moral behavior? No. So why are they like this? They are like this because they are insane. Just like when I was emotionally screwed up, just like my mother was screwed up. No matter what you do, when you're emotionally screwed up, everything you do is wrong. And you can't think things out. So why did these people look the other way and focus on the silly bullshit and not care about the corruption as long as it was on their side? I started studying a lot about psychotherapy. I started studying about domestic violence. I started studying about propaganda, cults, and all that whoopee good shit. And the conclusion I came up with is that these people are insane. And the funny thing is, you see this person that says we'll trade racists for rapists? Reason doesn't work on these people. You know who else wasn't capable of reason? My mother. You know why? Because she was emotionally screwed up. Because of abuse. One time what happened is that there was this guy who my brother met at work. Really shady. And he was trying to buy a car. It turned out this guy was trying to defraud my brother. He was trying to scam him. So he managed to get his hooks in on my mother. And started to convince her that he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And we started talking to her over Thanksgiving dinner about using reasoning about why this is a bad idea, why we should call this guy on the cops and get him arrested, which we tried to do, and why this is a bad idea, and why you defended him. She didn't want to be known as wrong. When she was pointed out she was wrong, she went into a fucking rage. She doesn't like being proven wrong, especially like that. And that, I suspect, that reading about, she suffers from narcissism. She doesn't know it. She's gotten a lot better since she dealt with her demons, but this is just a demonstration. Now, I see that fucking behavior from my mother, and I realize that behavior how I was when I was younger, and I see it in these fucking people, these social justice warriors. The reason why people turn their backs on corruption is because they're insane. They don't want to admit up to the flaws, and what makes them that way is they're emotionally dysfunctional. And when you're emotionally dysfunctional, you think we'll trade racists for rapists kind of bullshit. And the reason why these people are fucked up in the head is because their ideology is systematically designed to create them, to make them insane on purpose. So they'll be more likely to do as they're told. It's diabolical and sick. And what's that have to do with the rest of the shit? I'll explain that later.